It's my pleasure to call Shri Gokul Pattnaik, who is chief guest for the evening, onto the dais to provide us with an address. Let's give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, Ravinsha University, my most dear friend Samya Babu, other dignitaries on the dais, my senior alumni members, those who are present, friends. After this very powerful and emotional and inspirational speech by Amya Babu, I don't have too much to add. I think he has very rightly mentioned that this is the time and the age when all of you young people sitting, except for the first three rows, I see people only in the either in the 20 or early 20s. All of you should ask yourself a few questions. Do some introspection of what do you want to be, what you think of life, what you think of the world. Yesterday I was seeing a YouTube piece, and I would recommend all of you to see that if you have the chance. I'm sure all of you are on social media. This was about a news division documentary taken in 1967. The name was I Am India 20. And this person interviewed all people at the age of 20 because India had just got independence in 1947 and people in 1967 were exactly 20 years old, people in the universities like you. And he asked them, what do you want to be? What is your ambition in life? What plans do you have for the country and for yourself? And he interviewed 20 people from different strata of society, from villages, from universities, from IITs and all that. And as a follow-up, this person in 1967, he did in 1997, he did a follow-up to find out whatever these 20 people in their 20s had imagined, did they happen? Were they able to achieve it? It was a very good piece to see, very good view to see. Some of them who at the age of 20 were seeing dreams of an India, of a different India, of India where there will be no poverty, no illness, nothing, and almost a Ram Rajya. They themselves, how they had worked, whether they had achieved success in life or not. Surely out of 20, 7 people had somewhat achieved their ambition. One of them had become the vice president of Tata's. One of them had become a president of a big multinational company. One of them had become a professor. And one of them had become a social worker, an activist. Different people pursue different lines. I was reflecting on myself when I was in West Hostel 1966. What did I want to be? And have I achieved anything that I wanted to be? Probably I wanted to become someone successful. And yes, 3 years after I left the hostel, I got into the IAS. But I was kept wondering if that is all that I wanted to be. After 20 years in IAS, I found that there's more in the world than the IAS and the officialdom. There are a lot of restrictions. Therefore, I decided to quit. When I gave in my papers for voluntary retirement, I was in Punjab government then. The Punjab cabinet sat together and they said, Mr. Pattnaik, do you want to join the private sector, do you want to earn more money? I said, no, I don't, I'm not joining any private sector. I want to be my own boss. I don't want to answer silly questions. I want to be independent. I want to do what I like doing. And after that, I left this service, and of course, for the first time, I think Punjab government gave a beautiful resolution, passed a resolution praising my services. But I decided not to stay on all the temptations of the government. I decided to quit, and I started my own, what I wanted to do all the time. And after 20 years outside the government, I have now seen life both within the government and outside the government. I ask myself still the same questions which Soumya Babu was asking you. What are we doing with the institutions? Is democracy as it is functioning as it should be functioning? And what are you describing? What do you want? What are you contributing to correct? If you don't like the situation, you don't like this thing, what are you doing to help? So maybe there are no answers to such questions, but I would definitely urge that all of you should think for yourself what you want to be after 20 years. Like me, if you are called upon to address young gathering when you are 75, you should be able to tell them that yes, I have been a success, or I have not been able to do what I want to do. So think very seriously what you want to do. If you want to be in the government, go ahead, do that, but do something which you like. I have only two things to tell you. One is, whatever you choose to do something which your heart tells you, which you like doing. Don't be forced into doing something which you don't like to. And I'm not talking about getting married or anything else. I'm talking about choosing your livelihood and what you want to do in life. Secondly, whatever you do, think that you should leave a footprint. You should leave a footprint means after you are not there, when you are not there, people should talk about you and say that this person has done this, this, this. So count whatever, every 5 years, you take a budget of what you have done, what you have achieved, and whether you are satisfied with that or not. Self-satisfaction is the best thing that you can do for yourself, and success is achieving what you like doing and being successful, satisfying your own yourself. If you are satisfied with what you are doing, then that is the best thing that can be done. So please think of whatever you do. In fact, you're telling the Vice Chancellor that the universities are places which should encourage people to do more creative thinking instead of just asking them to take one exams after the other. Do some creative thinking, do some joint thinking. When I went to the West Hostel this morning, I saw a beautiful room where the Vice Chancellor said that this will be the alumni room. It used to be a common room in our days, and I remember fondly that we used to have many heated discussion about everything in the world, about China, about Russian communism, about American capitalism, about Indian poverty relations and parties. So I would say that encourage this kind of discussion, free discussion, and have some think tanks within the society, because today the student union are not become only beds of politics. Different political parties have gone in. There is very little real interaction, intellectual discussion there. So have some think tanks, think forums, where you think of problems relating to the country relating to Odisha, relating to your college, relating to environment. And at least once a month, twice a month, you meet together and have a structured discussion about problems and try to solve it. As Soumya Babu was saying, once upon a time, Ravenshaw was the only parameter of judging a person's integrity or intellectual ability in Odisha. If you are from Ravenshaw, then you are thought of someone who is with respect. Today, unfortunately, Ravenshaw is only one of the 24 universities. I don't know whether we can still call it the premier university, premier education place or not. But you have to work very hard to keep it that way. Because Ravenshaw has a glorious tradition which no other institute in Odisha can have. Please, it is up to you to keep the tradition up and to make sure that the number one position is unchallenged in Odisha. And you continue to be number one, both intellectually, activity-wise, and everyone else. About the hostels, I have very fond memories. Actually, when I joined the hostel, West Hostel, I was coming back from a public school background, so I found it very difficult to negotiate the bathrooms. One of the things I first asked the Vice Chancellor today, have you remodeled the bathrooms, the washrooms? I was very glad to see that they have been remodeled, although the size of the room is still as small as it was in my room. But at least the bathrooms and the dining room is much better. We used to have a dining in the place where now you have your student union office. You can imagine the low hanging this thing, and many people have talked about the water in the dal or dal in the water, whatever you call it. But you forget all that. In spite of all that, I still remember that those 3 years were probably the happiest year of my life. In spite of all the problems, in spite of all the bathroom difficulties, in spite of all the watery dals, and in spite of all the mosquitoes, it's still the best years of your life you spend with your friends. The intellectual ability, the discussions, the thing that you still remember. So don't forget these days, build on them, and remember your friends. When Mr. Sarangi asked me if you remember some of the other names, I try to recollect everyone in my batch and try to connect as many people as possible. So please keep that comradeship, that companionship is very good, very valuable. Please keep it, all of you who are in the hostel or outside the hostel. Remember your friends. These are friends forever. So don't forget them and keep them up. And I think the Vice Chancellor was giving you a slogan. I'll give you another slogan, particularly for the hostelers. East or West, Ravenshaw is the best. So, keep it that way, keep the flag flying. Thank you.